Hey fellow Vault Dwellers, it's Angry Turtle, and today we are talking armor. Regular armor, not power armor, in regards to the March update. As it's coming fast, what will be the best one? What can you expect? Spoiler alert, it's not looking very good for Secret Service armor, and I will explain exactly why. So let's dive in all the armors that I prepared and how do they compare to each other? I'm unequipping my under armor, so all resistance will be coming from armor itself. I unequip all the cards, no mutations to boost my resistances, so it will be basically on the stat page. What we'll see here, it will be armor itself. There is a lot of armors available, and they different than on live game version like right now. Much more diversity in armor choices, but there are some quite obvious winners as well. The modifications, not all of them have the same, like alloyed metal is obviously for metal, different for Secret Service, and so on. I will show you some on Workbench. You may choose between several sometimes, at least 2 or 3. It's not one is best and all other are worse. It's no longer like that. But let's start with stats. First, we have here a heavy metal. I will put on the screen as well number that's a sum of all resistances total, excluding radiation. As radiation is a side one, it's not really used in combat for most part, so I'm excluding that from all the other resistances that are like combat resistances. So this one, 732, quite solid as for a metal. Downside is majority is ballistic. There is almost no spread on this one. I have some examples like this heavy metal and heavy robot, just so you see how old armors compare with the very expensive gold bullion ones. For the robot, total 735, and more balance here. Still majority of resistance going into ballistic. Ballistic seems to be prioritized for most armor pieces at all, like regardless of the armor type. Ballistic usually is the highest, but not always. Not always. That's another one. Then Arctic Marine, because Arctic Marine is currently available from Minerva. Total of 639. Very high cryo resistance, even with ballistic, like equal to ballistic. Relatively balanced, but total is 639. So I would not say it's a must-have unless they will add more enemies that hit really hard with a cryo damage, as cryo is the one resistance that it's not easy to obtain. There is not too much you can do to increase cryo resistance. There are legendary perks to increase poison or fire, but nothing for cryo. And the last from classic, so this is a heavy combat with boss modification, and then we are jumping on to gold bullion armors. This one is total of 745, so one of the best, especially that resistances are quite balanced. Across the board, it's good resistance to everything. Lowest is poison, but everything is high and balanced. Obviously, all those resistances will be higher when you equip Ironclad. Max out Ironclad, everything will be 50% higher. So, for example, 150 cryo instead of 98. That's given. And finally, first one with gold bullion, and important in here, that's the only one we are using buttress. Now, those modifications are not always straightforward. Buttress is not always the best. For the Brotherhood Recon, it is, as other modifications do not do much. The downside of Buttress, it's now boosting exclusively ballistic resistance. You will see in a second. So it's even a higher ballistic on this armor than otherwise it would be with Buttress, but there is no way to really boost elemental or energy on it. And this one is whooping 931 total resistance. Only downside, it's all ballistic, like almost all is ballistic. Very little of other resistance, like not as little to be close to zero, but relatively much lower. Huge ballistic. So this armor, I would say, a must-have if not to use it all the time, so at least add it to your inventory if hard-hitting enemies that hit with ballistic damage will be prominent after March update. This will be the armor to go. The other resistances are still decent, but ballistic is phenomenal on this one, and total is close to 1k, which is great. And now let's see Secret Service armor set, and this one is modded with Hardened. Hardened is the modification that boosts everything overall. And we are getting a total of 659 with very low elemental resistances across the board. It is a high radiation resistance armor, but I would not say it's worth the trade-off. 659 total is lower than some regular armor pieces like robot armor, heavy robot would be better off than that. It's relatively high energy, but the trade-off is definitely not worth it. 659 total. And additional downside, there is no hardened mod for limbs for Secret Service. So that's a big downside for me. Like missing mods, it's definitely a big downside. So that's the Secret Service. Next, Civil Engineer. That's the armor from the expeditions. And this one is total of 834. Even though this is a medium armor, and look at this beautiful energy resistance. It is indeed lacking a lot in ballistic resistance department. So you could think, yeah, we can mix armor sets, and we do, but then Ironclad will be weaker. So I'm not sure if it will be worth mixing armor sets. Let's say get Brotherhood Recon as a torso piece to boost ballistic, and then all limbs as Civil Engineer. But we are missing on Ironclad, and we are missing on Civil Engineer set effect. So I'm not sure if that's gonna be worth it, but Civil Engineer is looking awesome. And I can compensate ballistic quite a bit with Barbarian perk under strength, so that can be boosted up. What do you think? Civil Engineer is looking like one of the best options for the armor. 834 total, and majority is energy resistance, which is important one. Just in case you wonder about leather armor, a heavy leather armor, it's not so great. It is still high energy resistance and surprisingly high cryo resistance, but I would not use it as those are too low. Like ballistic is down the bottom, and energy is not higher than Civil Engineer. So Civil Engineer is looking for me as a winner. In case you would like to take a quick look on other armors that we are using, like for stealth, for example, I should have something in my storage, but I'm not really comparing them, mainly because, like, this armor, if you go for stealth, like Covert Scout armor, you are using it for stealth boosts and effects, not for resistance, so you will use it regardless what the resistance is. And obviously it is much lower. That's again stealth armor. And this is the resistance. At least it's very balanced. Total of 552. So, to be absolutely honest, not much worse than Secret Service is. And that's armor for stealth. This is stealth setup. This is not I'm the most tanky one in Appalachia setup. So Secret Service is unfortunately gonna be retired if nothing changes. At least for me, I will be switching to Civil Engineer. The only downside with Civil Engineer, if I do the switch, Civil Engineer is medium, and there are implications in regards to perk like Ricochet or Bullet Shield. They will be slightly less efficient in medium armor versus heavy, but weapon break slower is very nice. And extra damage to attackers, to melee attackers, extra fire damage is nice too. So there is a set bonus. Most likely I'll be switching for Civil Engineer, and maybe if necessary I will be still using Brotherhood Recon armor for its very high Brotherhood Recon, very high ballistic resistances. So that's definitely something I will still keep in my inventory. Now, in regards to your choices, when you go to modify your armor, there is still, in my opinion, some winner for particular armors, but not straightforward. It's more like a choice. For example, Brotherhood Recon, because it's based on your other resistances, so I could trade off most of the damage resistance for a little bit of elemental with hardened. Tempered is just weak. It's boosting ballistic, fire, and cryo, ignoring those two. Welded is inferior version of hardened, so you don't really want to go for welded. Hardened is better. So there are like 3 choices for the gold bullion armors. Max ballistic butchers, hardened, everything a little bit, and then tempered, still good ballistic, good fire, good cryo. So those are the choices, and this is a team for most armors that are gold bullion ones. Of course, the non-gold bullion armor, it's different. For limbs, it's similar scenario. In butchers, you can see in case of this armor, it's not worth it. You are trading a lot of resistances for a little bit of ballistic. So if armor to begin with is good overall, you want to go hardened. If armor to begin with is good for ballistic, you want to go butchers. And if you have some case of an armor that would be really only for fire and cryo, you can go with tempered. Although, as you may notice, not for every armor piece it's really so worth it. Only a little bit more ballistic and you are losing those resistances. So there are choices here. Good news about Civil Engineer, it does have Strengthened. That's the mod required if you want to achieve full limb immunity that is missing on Secret Service armor. So this one is indeed in here. Power armor resistances on public test server remain to be ultra high, so you don't need to worry about resistances too much about power armor. More like you'll be worried about set effects. Therefore, armors that you are using most likely stay. The regular armor is the one that seems to be changing because of all of that. Brotherhood Recon and Civil Engineer are good, but for some reason, Secret Service going out. And it looks really ugly when you wear it, so maybe it will still change. But as for now, Secret Service is weak. Not just plain, it's weak. It's missing elemental resistances and getting like nothing in exchange for that. Maybe it will be still updated. If not, I would not invest right now in Secret Service. And that being said, thank you a lot for watching and see you all in the next one.